This year's MVP race has quite possibly been one of the most difficult to sort through in recent memory. Most years, the top three on the ladder, we can pretty much guess who's gonna win. And normally by now it's up to two people. I know many people would probably say it's between Jokic and Embiid, but I honestly think Giannis has a fair shot. Giannis has been nothing but dominant this season. Embiid has done the same on both ends of the court, and Jokic, he's played better than he's played in his last two MVP seasons. I'm sure if you ask a member of the three separate fan bases, without question, the answer is clear to each one of them. You go out west, it's going to be Jokic. You go to Philly, it's going to be Embiid. And if you go up north to Milwaukee, they're going to tell you it's Giannis without a doubt. Personally, I think all three players have a valid argument for why they should be MVP. Instead of my normal video where I talk about the stats myself and explaining why each player should win, or even discussing the disgusting discourse that's been going on around the MVP, because that's essentially what drove me to do this video in the first place. The way people have talked about Jokic, the way people have talked about Embiid from each of the separate fan bases. Honestly, I haven't really seen Giannis get brought up too much. Regardless, it's been a lot of biased conversation, a lot of bad basketball talk, and just overall disagreement about what an MVP really is. I've seen Jokic fans pulling out advanced statistics that I've never heard of, and 90% of the basketball community has never heard of. I've heard Philly fans take aim at Jokic as if he's not even on the same level as Embiid, when truthfully, he's up there. They're neck and neck. Honestly, they're two play styles. It really comes down to what you choose. It's subjective at the end of the day. Personally, I would go with Embiid, but I wouldn't be mad at you if you chose Jokic over Embiid. And then Giannis is just a dog. He's been dominant. We already know what Giannis can do. And honestly, Bucks fans haven't needed to speak out too much with Giannis, because his numbers have spoken for itself. The play has spoken for itself, and he's done it this whole season while he's had some injuries and some things to deal with. Now, to help me with this, I employed help from some of these teams' most avid fans from Twitter and YouTube alike. For the Nuggets, I got friend and fellow content creator, The Dropstep. His link to his channel is in the description, so go drop him a sub. He actually just dropped a video not too long ago, so go watch that video after you're done with this one. For Philly, I got my dog and thumbnail editor, Josh Benzo. He has a channel as well in the description, and I put his Twitter link in the description as well, so you can get your own thumbnails. And last but not least, for the Bucks, I got one of the Bucks' biggest fans, and that is at Snell Season on Twitter. Go follow him as well. Now, obviously, some of this stuff is met with my own opinion and touch, but overall I wanted to touch base with some of these fan bases' biggest fans that watch these fan bases night in and night out. Personally, if it's a team that I like, I'm watching pretty much every single game that I can, and with these guys, I think it'll be the best arguments for the MVP discussion, so that at the end of the video, you guys can ultimately make your own decision as to who MVP should be. Now, before we get into it, if you're not new, go ahead and drop a sub. I wouldn't love anything more than to have you a part of the gang, basketball enthusiast, basketball, whatever you want to call yourself. Just be a part of the community. And if you're not new, hit the like button, and you already know what to do. Drop a comment. Let me know who you think the MVP is this season. Now, first off, Nikola Jokic, he's the best player on the best team in the Western Conference. He won MVP last year with the 6th-seeded team, and with the improvement to this team's record, he's shown why he should be MVP again. A lot of us say it's hard to win an MVP 3 times in a row due to voter fatigue, and whether you believe in voter fatigue or not, you can't argue with an MVP player having a better season than his previous two. If last year's MVP outplayed this year's MVP, then shouldn't that automatically make him MVP? We all know no MVP wins without facing any adversity throughout the season. Jokic has had to deal with injury management within his team, injuries within himself, and a weak bench that this front office hasn't helped him with. And throughout all of this, he's not only been good, but he's been integral to the Nuggets' success by way of their 24-0 record when he records a triple-double. Now, part of the disgusting discourse I was talking about regarding MVP was some guys, Kendrick Perkins and other people on Twitter that piggyback off of these things that major media outlets say. They're saying he's a stat pattern, and they're saying it based on his triple doubles. He almost averages a triple double. In fact, he's 0.1 assist away from averaging a triple double. To be called a stat pattern when your team is 24-0 when you have said stat line, it directly contradicts being called a stat pattern. A stat pattern is a person that passed their stats despite losing. Jokic isn't doing that when he gets these stat lines, so he wouldn't be a stat pattern in this sense. Again, he's 0.1 assists away from averaging a triple-double while shooting a top 10 63% from the field. He helped them lead a win over Giannis and the Bucks this past Saturday, and on Monday, he also led a win over the Philly. Now, they didn't have Embiid, and the last time he played Embiid, he kind of... we ain't gonna talk about that. That's gonna be a part of MVP's points of emphasis with regards to him being an MVP. But regardless, him beating Giannis in this Monday helps his MVP resume. This Monday night, it wasn't as solidified as it could be because Embiid was not playing. However, Jokic has proven time and time again that he deserves the MVP. He's having a better season than he did when he won the MVP last year and the year prior. And he's one of those guys that when you're watching the Nuggets, no matter what, you know he's involved, whether it's on the offensive side or defensive side. And speaking of the defensive side, we all know Jokic is not the best defender in the world, but advanced statistics say he is one of them. Now, I'm not one of those that really buys into advanced statistics too much, so I'm not really going to go this route. But I will say it does help Jokic's case that in advanced statistics and advanced reasoning, I guess you would say, he's one of the best defenders in the league in terms of bigs. Now, at this point, we've seen him win 2 in a row. The first one is well-deserved. The second one was a bit questionable, and I'm going to be honest, this third one, it probably should go to Embiid. However, Jokic is making it very, very hard to give it a runaway landslide MVP race to Embiid. Now, with Embiid, and this is what many Embiid fans say, and I agree with them, I cannot lie. You shouldn't need numbers to tell you what your eyes can see. Now, there are some advanced statistics that do help and that do explain a bigger picture, but in terms of defense, you don't really need advanced statistics to tell you what you're watching. There's many other players that are way better than Jokic in terms of defense, including Walker Kessler, Bam Adebayo, Brook Lopez, and the main one that really matters, Joel Embiid. JoJo's leading the league in scoring with the deepest bag we've ever seen out of a 7-footer, and he's shooting 55% from the floor on 20-plus shots a game, and he's beaten both Giannis and Jokic in deciding fashion. Jokic needed to play Embiid this past Monday night to really solidify that MVP conversation, but Embiid already did this, which allowed him to be able to sit out last night. Against Giannis, he hit a go-ahead 3, and against Jokic, he essentially made him look like a shell of himself and dog-walked him. Now, remember when we talk about an amazing defender that Embiid is, he's constantly deterring players from shooting at the rim or even trying him at the rim in the first place. He's been the NBA's greatest shot blocker since the NBA All-Star break, and he's top 10 all year in that category. And if that wasn't enough, he is top 5 in points per game in the clutch and has multiple game-winning or go-ahead shots on this season. He's broken a bunch of records for 40-plus point games for a center, 30-plus point games for a center, and 30-plus point games in a row. Embiid has been robbed these past 2 years. He probably wasn't robbed the first year, but the second year, for sure. There's no question. The majority of the basketball world will say he was robbed. And if he doesn't win this year, we're going to have a real discussion about who the MVP selection committee is, because at this point, the media is becoming out of touch with the fans, and that's not a good thing for basketball, because if Jokic wins it one more time, it's going to be nasty. That's all I got to say about that. And last, and certainly not least, but the one that's gone under the radar the most, because he's pretty much been third on the ladder all year. Honestly, he probably should have risen a couple times, but that's neither here nor there because I don't have an MVP vote quite yet. I will in sometime in the future. I'm speaking that into existence. But to me, it's just funny how everyone is only talking about Embiid and Jokic as if Giannis isn't the best player on the best team who has the best record in the NBA. Now, just like Jokic, Giannis has had to deal with team injury woes, and it's been to some of the main contributors on this team, including Chris Middleton, Joe Ingles, who's been a great offensive guy this year. Even Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis has missed games. So all in all, for the Bucks to have the best record right now, it speaks to Giannis's Iron Man mentality and how well he's played all year. Now, personally, I would argue that if Giannis was the one that missed those games that all those players missed, this team wouldn't even be close to the number 1 seed. And in my opinion, that is a very, very good way to define who an MVP is. If you take that player out of the equation and your team drastically falls, he's the most valuable to your team. Giannis drives this bus like a Ferrari, and he's done it with few troubles. When he plays, the Bucks have a 74% winning percentage on the year. And if everything stayed as it is now, Giannis will be the first player to average 30, 10, and 5 on 50% shooting since Wilt Chamberlain, who won the MVP that year. And we all know the ridiculous records that Wilt has set. Giannis is also the best defender in the MVP race, and he could very easily win MVP and DPOY like my career player every year. And when Giannis is guarding players, they're shooting a lousy 41% from the field. Giannis has been nothing but dominant on both ends of the floor this season. At least with the other two, I feel like there are some drawbacks that you can speak to. Joel, not as many. Jokic probably has the most drawbacks, which is kind of hard to keep him in the top 2 for those reasons. But regardless of anything else, Giannis has the least amount of drawbacks, and he should honestly be a lot closer to the top 2 than he is at 3. That's all I got for you guys in this video. This was pretty much an MVP discussion. You get to see it from 3 different lenses. Again, I had help from 3 different people that were within these fan bases that watch these teams night in and night out. So most of these things that I'm telling you, it comes from the sentiment of the fan base. So at this point of the video, it's your turn to pretty much decide who you believe should win the MVP. Should it be Giannis? Should it be Joel? Or should it be Jokic? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, drop a sub and drop a like. And until next time, it is your boy TV with the greatest hoop stories and debates on the tube. And as always, I am out. Peace.